Whenever my father is home. Every night, he kneels on broken porcelain shards. To serve my mother while she washes her feet, those same hands that hold supreme power in court. Drenched in blood throughout his career. At this very moment, tenderly rubbed my mother's rough toes. Who would ever imagine? The man who is the most ruthless prime minister in the entire kingdom is actually my mother's second-hand find from the side of the road. Back then, he had been stabbed twice, hanging on to life by a mere thread. If it weren't for my mother coveting his expensive robes, she would have left him for the dogs. But now, he massages my mother's legs, while she casually remarks, "You've gotten chubby lately," turning his face deathly pale. He immediately drops his prime minister's dignity, wailing and threatening to go on a hunger strike, even preparing a noose to hang himself. Yet, no one in the capital knows that this man, who acts like a cowardly dog, in front of my mother, secretly executed 3 ministers just last night. And nobody knows either, that the reason he built such an imposing physique was simply for his own health, so his wife couldn't run away. My father was found by my mother while she was traveling as a doctor. At the time, he had 2 wounds on his body. Barely breathing, his life fading fast. He was wearing luxurious, expensive silk, and though my mother was a doctor, she was also quite greedy. Seeing those fine clothes, she knew he was a wealthy man. So, a lone woman, driven by a passionate love for money, carried my father back to her dwelling. Once back, she cared for him night and day, tending to his every need personally. My father's unconscious state lasted a full half-month before he finally woke. Upon waking, he saw my mother's smiling face, interrogating him about his background, and how much silver he had. My father said he was the son of a court official, whose father had the ear of the emperor. My mother beamed at hearing this, looking at my father, as if he were pure gold. She unhesitatingly held out her hand to ask for 1,000 taels. 1,000 taels of silver for my father, who had been raised in luxury, was nothing worth mentioning. He felt my mother valued him too cheaply, asking why she only wanted 1,000 taels. With his status, it should have been 1,000 taels of gold. So my mother immediately corrected herself, changing the fee to 1,000 taels of gold. After all, what fool would turn away extra money? Except for this fool of a father. Who would ever complain about giving less? And the reason my father was stabbed and left on the road was simply because he caught someone's eye due to his wealth. All his valuables were stolen. Plus, being spoiled since childhood, he had essentially no martial arts skills. So he couldn't win the fight. My mother scoffed at this, thinking, a man as flimsy as my father was truly pathetic. She liked men who could kill a bull with one punch. Men who could fight 10 at once. So after taking my father's money, my mother prepared to leave with the gold. But my father, who knows what he was thinking, actually used his handsome face to seduce my mother. According to my mother, when my father seduced her back then, he was like a peacock spreading his tail, singing and dancing for her. Most importantly, he showered her with money. For my mother, no matter how handsome a man was, she could resist that temptation. But when it came to money, she was helpless. If she missed out on even a penny, it made her feel heart-wrenchingly miserable. My father grasped my mother's weakness, prescribing the perfect, potent cure. In the end, under my father's financial offensive, my mother's heart was truly moved. Plus, my father was indeed very handsome. My mother thought, even if there was no future with a man who looked like him, having a good-looking child and learning medicine together would be nice. So after weighing it carefully, she finally agreed to my father. My father and mother secretly pledged their lives to each other. The 2 of them invited my mother's then living master as a witness, and vowed to heaven and earth to marry. After the wedding, my father said he wanted to take my mother to meet his parents. That was when my mother realized my father was the youngest son of the minister of the Court of Judicial Review. What he said about reaching the emperor's ear was no brag. My mother was immediately skeptical, as such families value status above all. Would they tolerate a low-born doctor entering their doors? So, my mother ran off in the night with the 1,000 gold taels. She was already carrying me in her womb. When my father woke early the next morning, he discovered his wife and the money were gone, only leaving a letter behind, saying, "Our bond is broken. Don't look for me." My father, worried, left home to start searching. He searched from north to south, chasing all the way from the capital to Jinling. He searched for nearly 2 months, eventually finding her in Jinling, flirting with men in a small tavern. "Father, did mother think you weren't handsome enough, so she went to flirt with other handsome men?" Upon hearing this, my father got indignant. "Don't talk nonsense. Your mother only loves my looks. I was the most handsome man in the capital." I nodded. "Fine. If you say so, then it is so." When my mother saw my father, feeling incredibly guilty, her instinct was to run. But my father pulled a stack of banknotes from his chest, saying, "If you come back with me, my private vault is yours. And as for money, you can have as much as you want." Although my mother was tempted, she still bit her lip trying to resist. My father showed great determination, pulling money from his pockets, 1,000 taels, 2,000 taels, 3,000 taels. When he pulled out 10,000 taels in banknotes, my mother surrendered. She truly couldn't ignore her desire for money. She'd rather lose her life than these 10,000 taels. So my mother, happily clutching the banknotes, returned to the capital with my father. My father was the youngest son, raised with endless pampering. Since he was small, my grandparents hoped he would find a noble lady from the capital, get married, and have children, but nobody expected he would marry my mother, a girl without a family or parents, a wandering doctor. My grandfather pointed at his nose, calling him brainless, a failure. My father nodded to every word, but when it came to leaving my mother, he stood his ground and defied my grandfather, insisting on marrying her as his official wife. He said either let her in, or he wouldn't live. And my father, that night, really wanted to hang himself with a rope. Finally, grandmother gave in, agreeing to my father's request. Later, my father told me he wouldn't have actually died. If he were dead, he wouldn't see my mother. He had planned it out then. If they didn't like my mother, and wouldn't agree to them being together, he would just take her away from the capital. When they were getting married, he prepared the grandest dowry in the capital for her, while my mother lay in his manor, sleeping and eating, waiting, spending all of his money. As my mother said, not taking advantages, being a complete idiot. And if that didn't work, if he couldn't afford to marry me, I'd just go back to Jinling, using his money to go there. Luckily, my father pulled it off, though he did get a beating from my grandfather. His backside was beaten until it was a mess, and to use my grandfather's words, my father is just like a donkey. Pulling him won't move him, and beating him makes him retreat. People can't do anything about a donkey. The day they were married, a dashing, flamboyant, uncommonly handsome, as beautiful as Pannon, devoted man, brought a gorgeous, stunning, with a peerless appearance, kind-hearted woman home. I took a bite of the apple in my hand. Why can't you just say it directly? Why pray so much? I'm just stating facts. Don't interrupt. After my father and mother were married, my grandparents still didn't like her, especially grandmother, who always found ways to make things hard for her. My father, though he couldn't write or fight, was a true romantic. Seeing my mother bullied, he packed up the servants, gold, and valuables, and moved out overnight. Those who didn't know thought the judicial official's home had been robbed. After moving, my father forbade my grandparents from coming over. To this day, the opportunities for me to see them at home are few. My mother was raised by her master, who was a man. So my mother almost never learned anything a young lady was supposed to know. But she liked sachets and handkerchiefs. So my father learned embroidery. A big man, staying up late, embroidering sachets for my mother, and handkerchiefs. My father learned unexpectedly fast. Soon, the sachets he embroidered were better than those of the ladies in the capital. My mother loved them, and wore them every day. My father was very proud of this, because it showed my mother's recognition of him, an honor no other man could get. My mother, as a doctor, loved preparing various medicinal herbs, so my father turned the backyard into a field for medicine. But my mother was pregnant with me then, and he feared the medicinal nature would harm me, so he took over the care of the herbs. Poisonous or not, precious or common, from sowing to fertilizing, he did it all himself. He tended those herbs for my mother, as if they were his own children. My mother was happy to see them growing well, hugging and kissing him. He was even happier, growing the best herbs in the capital. Many famous shops would even pay high prices to buy from her. Love truly creates miracles. Father, you're amazing. He affectionately patted my head. When I was born, I was the first child, so my grandparents were quite happy. But my father told them, if they made mother unhappy, they shouldn't bother coming. They knew my father's temperament, and they hid their usual sharp tongues from her. Mother's looks among the noble ladies were nothing extraordinary, but in my father's words, none could match half of her beauty. Father was just blinded by love. Don't say that, your mother is beautiful by nature. That is a fact. I think perhaps it was because she had no status, and wasn't that beautiful, that they always thought of forcing people on him, even though they had moved out. My grandparents would visit their house, and it was hard to stop them. Every time they came, they would find something to upset her. My father at that time was tallying accounts for the shops, and knew nothing of them finding trouble. The servants he brought were from his parents' estate, so under their direction, they were insincere and disobedient to her. Poor mother, in her own home, having to endure the attitude of servants. One day, when he returned from his accounting, he caught the servants giving my mother cold looks. My father, who usually looked like a wealthy fool, flew into a rage for the first time, throwing a teacup at the servant's head, and dragged the maids and matrons into the yard to be caned. He declared in front of everyone, "If anyone dares to disrespect her again, watch your heads. This is our home. Know who your master is." The servants were beaten and bedridden for days, begging for mercy and pain. But after that, those arrogant maids never appeared before her again. That was the first time my mother felt my father was so cool, so charming, and so mesmerizing. I scratched my head looking at him. "Is that what you said, or what mother said? Are you trying to trick me?" Father glared at me. "Of course it's what she said. We love each other." He replaced all the servants from his parents' manor, so there were no spies left. They couldn't even enter our house easily. Grandmother started to make a scene, calling him unfilial, saying he'd forgotten his mother for his bride, wanting to drag him to prison. It was my mother who said, "Forget it." She didn't want him to betray his family for her, so that was the end of it. My father always felt pain talking about it, wanting to shed tears. But I remembered mother taking me to the master's home. No servants, the house in ruins. Mother had suffered enough. Who knew that when I said that? He started wiping away tears, heartbroken over the suffering she had endured. According to him, she deserved the best in the world. I rested my chin on my hand. Having such a romantic father is really quite a headache. Grandparents didn't care for her, but they cared about the child in her belly. When she gave birth, they hired the best midwife. As a doctor, she could endure pain well, barely making a sound during labor. But when basins of blood were carried out, my father was outside crying hysterically, as if he were the one who had carried a child for 10 months. The servants held him back, not letting him enter, saying women in labor were unclean. He kicked them aside. "You're the ones who are unclean. My wife is nothing of the sort. I was born from that impurity." With tear-filled eyes, he rushed in to hold her hand and comfort her, only for her to seem fine, while father passed out from crying. So the maids had to take care of him too. But the news that it was a girl reached my grandparents, and they were not pleased, not even coming to see me at first. Mother and father didn't tell me this. The servants told me. They were afraid I'd be sad. But I didn't care. Why should one be sad because people don't like them? Mother said that's foolish. Mother recovered quickly after giving birth, but father refused to let her have another. They were still feuding with the grandparents, who kept pestering them to have a grandson. Finding out he wouldn't let her have more children, they were furious, and started pushing beautiful concubines on him. Grandfather's idea was that if she wouldn't give birth, let someone else. Mother didn't really care. If father wanted to, she couldn't stop him. If he didn't, he would handle it himself. The ones they sent were certainly prettier than mother, but father didn't want them. Chasing them all away, grandparents threatened him, "If you chase them away, I'll sell them to the brothel." My father said it was none of his business where they were sold, but mother couldn't bear it. These girls were from clean backgrounds. Why ruin their lives? So father sent them to the woodshed to chop wood. When they arrived, they were quite pretty. But after half a month of chopping wood, they were like wilted vegetables, all begging to leave. Mother couldn't be bothered, just glancing at father, who held me as he went to the door to look at them. "Who sent you here? Go find them. Are you tired of living by coming to my wife?" He was so kind in front of us that seeing him terrify others was quite a surprise. He tied them all up and sent them back to the grandparents. After that, no strange people ever appeared. Grandparents seemed to have given up, and their attitude toward me improved. But I still didn't like them. Yet mother taught me that juniors must respect their elders. When I was 4, mother was out seeing a patient, a young General Shao, who had just returned from a glorious battle. He was 5 years younger than mother, 2 years younger than father, but looked much more mature. He took a fancy to her, inundating her with gifts that money couldn't buy. My mother, though greedy, didn't take a single one. So General Shao turned his attention to me, sending desserts, fruits, and meat without charge. He even bought clothes from the best tailor. My greed is no less than mother's. But I knew who my father was. Anything from someone trying to break them up, I wouldn't take. But I had to blackmail my father, forcing him to buy me even more. He rushed off in a panic to all the shops, to buy things for us, only for mother to scold him for wasting money, making him kneel for an hour. He knelt there, massaging her legs, saying, "Wife is wise." Regarding the general's crush, my father was so angry he couldn't sleep, getting a fever blister. The next day, he charged to the general's manor. The general was a hero on the battlefield, with great achievements. Not even a concubine, but didn't look as handsome as father. He wasn't polite to father. Even if you are the judicial official, You are just a useless man with no rank. What right do you have to be Suwon's husband? Step aside. Oh, mother's name is Suwon. Given to her by my master. Because the master's surname is Su. And he found her in the evening, so her name is just that simple. Father heard the general call her Suwon. He was instantly enraged. I watched my father's face turn purple. How dare you call her by name? The general laughed. Why not? Father grabbed a vase from the general's table. Ready to fight to the death. General Xiao sighed, such a petty man. But my mother walked in, calming everything down with a look. She looked at the general. Then at my father. Saying, if you touch him, I won't give you allowance for a month. Father immediately dropped the vase. He was a dog, but he was mother's dog. The general felt defeated. Love is a mysterious thing. It makes a hero a child. And a villain a protector. Our family's life is indeed thrilling. But it's full of love. Father and mother's story is better than any legend. I'm lucky to be their child. And witness this beautiful life. He was so angry his teeth itched. Pointing at his face and calling him shameless. Young General Xiao didn't even argue back, saying, I am a soldier. The rule of survival is that the strong are king. I think you are too weak. And don't deserve a fine woman like Suwon. Why don't you divorce Suwon? I can even arrange a position for you under my command. Giving you some sort of official title. Bullshit. Wan is my wife. And she only likes me. Driven by pure passion. My father started fighting with General Xiao at the gate of the general's manor. Although he had been practicing martial arts for years, fearing my mother would look down on him. In the end, he couldn't compare to a general who had seen countless battles. He was defeated in less than 15 minutes. General Xiao was actually a man of character. Looking at my defeated father, he grinned. I thought you were just some pampered noble son, a weakling who couldn't lift anything. You're not bad, lasting 15 minutes against me. But I still think you aren't good enough for Suwon. However, if you're interested, you can come to the military camp to spar with me more. In the end, father returned to the manor like a defeated rooster. He, usually so talkative, turned sullen, sitting in the courtyard without saying a word. Mother didn't like seeing him like this. So she secretly asked me what happened. After I told her, mother flew into a rage, grabbed a vegetable knife, and went to the general's manor. Within a single day, both members of our couple had arrived wielding vegetable knives, making the general's manor quite the spectacle. My mother pointed the knife at General Xiao. There is absolutely no possibility between us. If you dare to bully my husband again, be careful, I'll hack you to death even if it costs me my life. Seeing mother like this, it was my first time. It was also that day I learned that my mother actually loved father very much. Yet, even with my mother pointing a knife at him, General Xiao just hung a foolish smile. Wan. You really are a woman of character. You are indeed unique. Mother remained silent for a long time, turned around, and left. On the way back, I asked, Mother, are we just going to leave like this? Mother said earnestly, he is mentally ill. He doesn't understand human speech. From now on, run when we see him, understand? Understood. So, General Xiao is mentally ill. When father found out that mother had gone to settle the score with General Xiao for his sake, he clung to mother and whined like a spineless worm. After that day, my father, who never liked studying, started reading books every day, going to bed later than a dog, and rising earlier than a rooster. Mother and I didn't know what he was doing. We could only watch silently. The next year, father participated in the imperial examinations for noble families, placed first, and became a government official, although not a high-ranking official. He held a very important position. Grandparents were delighted, and wanted father to bring us back to the main family home. Father refused almost without thinking. He told me he entered officialdom just to be worthy of mother, so no one could say my mother had chosen wrong. I scratched my head, and realized father still cared about General Xiao. The day he joined the court, General Xiao went off to the frontier, leaving a letter for my mother before he left, telling her to wait for his return, saying he had chosen her for life. Mother crumpled the letter and threw it into the fire. Father was so angry, his tooth roots were swollen. Consequently, he worked even harder in court, with dark circles under his eyes. Mother touched his hair, feeling very sorry for him. Your mother likes me a lot too. As long as she likes me, I am happy. Father was hardworking and clever, never complained, and was an honest official. So he was very favored by the emperor, rising through the ranks quickly. As for General Xiao, he would send a letter to my mother almost every 2 months. Mother wouldn't read them, but father would read them one by one, every time turning green and purple with rage. I concluded that my father loves making himself miserable. So I said, Father, if you like seeing other people write letters to mother, the son of Minister Fu also thinks my mother is a hero among women. Shall I tell him to write to her too? Then I was kicked by my father. who said if I talked nonsense again, he'd beat me. Fine, whatever father says goes. General Zhao's crush on my mother, and his attempts to steal her away, were known even to the emperor. Father was very depressed about it. Drinking too much and crying to mother, Su-wan. You can't abandon me, okay? You can't like anyone else. If you like someone else, what will I do? Mother smiled and coaxed him, I won't. I only like you. I covered my ears and screamed as I ran away. I really couldn't stand my father, who cried like a donkey, and my mother, who spoke so mushy words. To ensure he wouldn't be weak when encountering General Zhao, father practiced martial arts even harder, and even went to farm and fight mountain bandits. Over time, looking at my father was like looking at an old ox that would never get tired. My mother used to be indifferent, but seeing father's tireless ox-like behavior, she became quite affectionate. I felt like an ant on a hot pan. Utterly uncomfortable. Wait, when did your father ever look like an old ox? Always. Nonsense, where would you find a handsome old ox like your father? Father was very diligent, and soon became a chancellor. Reputedly the youngest chancellor of our dynasty. Because father became chancellor, mother and I were looked down upon again. They said my mother was just a doctor and unworthy of being a chancellor's wife. Often, the storytellers in the tea houses would also point fingers at my mother, transforming her from a highly skilled doctor into a witch who bewitched hearts. They even said my mother had an ordinary appearance, and if she hadn't used sorcery, how could she have won the chancellor? Grandmother and grandfather's hope of changing father's wife was rekindled. At home, occasionally there would even be rude noble ladies visiting. Mother is a person who remains calm regardless of praise or humiliation, simply asking the housekeeper to see them out. She didn't care about the talk in the city. But I couldn't. I would never allow others to bully my mother. Since childhood, father had found the best masters to teach me martial arts. Father said I had to protect mother. So when father was away, I couldn't let mother be bullied. So I grabbed my sharpened saber and went to attack the uninvited guests who came to my home. I didn't care whose daughter you were. Coming uninvited is a nuisance. Mother couldn't stop me, and I made that young lady crawl on the ground. Only then did I feel better. I pointed my saber at the noble girl's face. If you bully my mother again, I will use the sharpened blade for real. Mother called me reckless, and punished me by making me kneel in the ancestral hall. But when father came home and visited me, he gave me a huge gold hairpin, and brought lots of snacks. Father grinned, well done. Whoever bullies your mother deserves to die, you hear me? As a result, mother kicked open the door to the ancestral hall, pointing at father, panting. Father ran over to hug mother, Su-wan. Don't be angry with me. I won't do it again. Mother pushed him away. You reached this position. You suffered so much hardship. How could you do such foolish things like smashing a tea house? That's when I learned. When I had gone to attack the person who came to our door, father had smashed the storyteller's tea house, and threatened that anyone who dared insult the chancellor's wife again should be careful of his wrath. The tea house was smashed to bits by father, and he threw down some silver, and went to the palace to confess his crimes before coming back. The emperor seemed quite satisfied with my father, letting him off with a verbal reprimand, sparing him just like that. They say it's because he is upright. A good official who cares for the people and contributes to the country. So those old officials in the capital find him an eyesore. But he instead won the emperor's favor. My father always likes to take the opportunity to brag about himself. But when he came back that day, mother beckoned him over and kissed him on the face. Father was like a beggar who had found a gold coin. A silly, priceless grin on his face. Actually, father wasn't never angry with mother. Around the time I was 6 or 7, mother went to see a patient, and pulled a girl off the street who was being sold by a gambling father, and brought her home. Her name was Xiao Lu. She was about 14 or 15. Nearly 10 years younger than my father and mother. She was quite pretty. At that time, mother pitied her, and arranged for her to learn medicine in the manor. Mother thought, if a woman has a skill, she can support herself in the future. Xiao Lu didn't seem like a very bright person. She was always slow to understand the things mother taught. Mother didn't get annoyed. Always very patient. Xiao Lu didn't just learn medicine. She would sometimes do some chores on her own. No one told her to. She just did them. When father was tired, he would occasionally go out to hunt wild game to eat. So he would occasionally get mud on him. Xiao Lu would lower her head and try to take off father's clothes to help wash them, calling him brother-in-law every other word. Because Xiao Lu was someone my mother rescued, father would just dodge her and tell her she didn't need to do these things. In the house, besides mother and me, no one could get close to my father. But I heard Xiao Lu say to father, "Thank you for your consideration, brother-in-law, but I am a woman. These things should be done by me. Then go wash my wife's clothes. I don't need you," but Xiao Lu insisted. Finally, the insistent Xiao Lu was pushed away by father. falling to the ground and hurting herself. Father looked unhappy and dragged me to find mother. Originally, father only intended to say that Xiaolu had wandering hands. But Xiaolu knelt in front of mother, kowtowing repeatedly, saying she just wanted to do more and had no bad intentions. Mother believed her and let Xiaolu stay. Father was very angry about this, giving mother the cold shoulder because he felt mother didn't love him, and moved into the guest room, waiting for mother to coax him. But mother didn't come. Xiaolu came instead, according to father. In the middle of the night, the door opened. He thought it was mother, grinning. But when the person approached, father realized it wasn't mother. It was actually Xiaolu, wearing only a belly wrap. Xiaolu looked seductive. Master, I am younger than your wife, and more beautiful than her. Keep me, and I am willing to be your concubine. I won't tell. Before she could finish, father kicked her, and Xiaolu was kicked out like a dog. Father ran off the bed to the doorway, picked up his sword, and pointed it at Xiaolu's neck. What do you think you are? Daring to compare yourself to my wife? My wife saved your life, not knowing gratitude. You still do such treacherous things. You idiot. The tip of the sword pressed against Xiaolu's neck, drawing blood. Xiaolu screamed for my mother, begging her to save her. When mother arrived, she saw Xiaolu wearing a belly wrap, with a thin line of blood on her neck, and father's face under the candlelight looked terrible, and appeared exceptionally aggrieved. He looked at mother, his voice aggrieved. I told you to drive her away. You wouldn't, and I almost lost my innocence. When father said this, the sword tip was still pressed against Xiaolu's neck. I thought father really wanted to kill her. The early autumn air was chilly. Xiaolu lay on the ground, crying and looking at mother, but didn't dare move against father's sword. Mother was afraid father would really kill someone, and quickly reached out to coax him, speaking softly, it's my fault. Don't let blood be shed. Put the sword down first. Father then sheathed the sword, looking evilly at the blood on the blade, and started aggrieved again. This sword is a gift from you, stained with this beast's blood. Mother didn't care, that was from the iron shop in the east of the city, costing a tale of silver, even cheaper than her. Hearing mother's words, Xiaolu cried and crawled toward mother, preparing to grab mother's feet, but was kicked away by father. Get further away. What are you to touch my wife? Xiaolu pitifully, Madam, I was forced to. Please let the master keep me, I'll just be a concubine. I will serve the master with you. I want to stay in the manor. Mother was truly shocked by this shamelessness. Staring coldly at her, I showed you grace. And you still want me to share my husband with you? Do I look like a fool to you? If you don't want to live, you can die in this manner today. Anyway, you were bought by me. Your life and death are up to me. Hearing mother say this, father drew his sword again, against Xiaolu's neck, seeming as if he would really hack down if mother opened her mouth. Xiaolu cried and kowtowed. Finally mother had someone throw her out of the manor. Father felt mother didn't trust him, and gave her the cold shoulder again, muttering left and right like a rooster. Mother also felt she had made a mistake, reaching out to pull father. Voice soft, husband, don't be angry anymore, okay? Just this phrase. Father acted like he had no bones, looking at mother, his face red, but still forced himself to say, you have no credibility at all. Know that you were wrong. Then mother tiptoed and kissed father. Father twisted left and right like a worm, grinning, I'll let it slide this time, but don't do it again next time. Father was coaxed by mother just like that. Later I thought, actually, even if mother didn't coax father, he would be fine on his own. In the 3rd year of father's chancellorship, mother suddenly said she wanted another child. Then father remembered the situation when mother gave birth to me, his face turning pale, firmly saying, no more. Mother was angry and had a falling out with father, turning around to see father sitting in a corner wiping his tears. I gnawed on a duck leg and shuffled over. Father, why are you crying? You look terrible when you cry. If mother knows, she won't like you anymore. This phrase was useful. Father went from crying like rain to sniffling. Then father started talking about the pain mother had during childbirth. Talking and talking, turning back and aiming a blow at my head while I was eating the duck leg, hitting me once. You idiot. Still eating? You didn't inherit a bit of your mother's wit and beauty. I rubbed my head. But everyone says I look like mother. How could I not be good looking? Father sniffled. You're not as handsome as your mother. After father finished crying, he was gone that day. Returning the next day. When he came back, there was a smile on his face. Strutting to the doorway, pushing the door open, he told mother, wife, I went to the palace yesterday to get some medicine. I can't father any more children. Then mother hit father many times. Father didn't care about the beating, grinning as he hugged mother. You suffered so much when you gave birth to our daughter. How could I bear to have you give birth to another? In the end, mother forgave father, and the two of them reunited. Just one day, mother looked at father, and asked, "Have you put on some weight recently?" Hearing this, father was terrified. How can a handsome man put on weight? He grabbed my hand and asked, "Daughter, is your father fat and ugly?" I was still holding a grudge about him hitting my head. So I nodded, yes, fat. Then father acted like an old ox, eating less and moving more. Even going to the backyard garden to dig soil every day, literally having endless energy. Just like that, after struggling for a month, father was thinner. But also darker. Darker father wasn't bad to look at either. But he was sensitive when mother mentioned it. And started trying to make himself fair again. Really too much trouble. Father, covering his head with cloth, asked me, "Daughter, have I become ugly after turning dark? Will your mother dislike me?" I bit into the duck leg and shook my head, "Not really. If you are afraid mother will dislike you, don't let her see you. If she can't see you, she can't dislike you." Father gave me a smack on the back of my head. "Stop meddling in your mother's and my feelings. If I can't see your mother for one day, I wouldn't last to the day after tomorrow." Father is in his 30s now. And still talks so cloyingly. I don't know who else but mother could stand him. In this moment, father left again, carrying the cakes mother loves to go find her. Fine. I'll have to live like this for decades to come. Days passed. And I grew up. If you say I look like him, it's delicate. Not exactly breathtaking. But father doesn't think so. He thinks I am the most beautiful woman in the entire city after my mother. Perhaps because I have reached the age of marriage. During this time, the threshold of the Chancellor's manor has almost been worn flat by matchmakers. I was gnawing on a green bean cake. The sweet bean aroma melting in my mouth. Father sat in the chair, holding a teacup. His face as dark as the bottom of a pot. "Minister's youngest son?" Father sneered. "Doesn't know a single letter. Only knows how to gamble and chase girls all day. Not worthy of my daughter. Get out, the bold son of the general." Father slammed the teacup on the table. The tea splashing on the back of his hand. "Looks like a monkey. Looks like a short-lived ghost. Get out." The top scholar, the matchmaker wiped the cold sweat from her forehead. The top scholar is already 25. Father stood up abruptly. Like a rooster with ruffled feathers. An old ox eating young grass, coming to my Chancellor's manor to steal my cabbage? Throw him out. I swallowed the last of the green bean cake, brushed the crumbs off my hands. How interesting. In father's eyes, all men in the world are pigs. Only his cabbage is precious. Oh, wait, the most precious one is my mother. I am the second most precious cabbage. Mother was drying herbs in the backyard. A faint scent of angelica drifting to the front hall. She didn't even look up, simply sending a gentle word over. "If you keep throwing out every matchmaker who comes, Zhao Zhao will suffer in the future." As soon as father heard mother's voice, he immediately changed his expression. The Chancellor, who had been stern just a moment ago, instantly turned into a wagging-tailed dog. He ran to the backyard, taking the umbrella from mother's hand, grinning flatteringly. "Suffering is fine, suffering is fine. Where in the world is a boy worthy of our daughter? I'll recruit a son-in-law to live in. I will watch him every day. If he dares to make you too unhappy, I will beat him to death with a stick." I rolled my eyes. Fine. I guess I won't be able to marry in this life. Just when I thought I could settle down at home and gnaw on a cake, living my life in peace, grandmother arrived. Ever since father became Chancellor, grandmother's attitude toward our family, it took a complete 180-degree turn, especially towards me. She probably felt that my father was a lost cause to manipulate. But the marriage of me, the Chancellor's daughter, was still worth scheming over. One day, grandmother brought over a young man dressed in a moon-white, brocade robe. The young man actually looked decent enough, and he was waving a folding fan in his hand, acting as if he were quite the refined gentleman. "Zhao Zhao, this is the youngest son of your cousin's family. Technically, you should call him cousin." Suemo took my hand, her eyes squinting with a wide smile. I pulled my hand back in disgust. While taking the half-eaten osmanthus cake I had left over and stuffing it into my sleeve, the sugar was sticky and clung to my fingertips, so I subtly wiped it off on my hem. "Greetings, cousin," I said perfunctorily. The cousin looked me up and down, his gaze filled with unmasked calculation and disdain. He probably thought that since my mother was a village girl, my upbringing couldn't be any better. I had long heard that my cousin was straightforward. "Seeing you today, you truly are unconstrained by trivialities," he said with a smile, tapping his palm with his folding fan. My brow furrowed. Who was this grandson being sarcastic towards? Father happened to be working today, just returning from the mirror workshop, and his expression darkened instantly upon hearing this. He strode over, blocking my front like a wall, looking down at that cousin. In her own home, does my daughter need to worry about small, trivial manners? What kind of thing are you? Coming to my house to point fingers and dictate? Father never held back when scolding people. Especially not Towards some poor, pathetic relative he didn't care for at all. The cousin's face turned shades of blue and white. Looking to grandmother for help. Grandmother's face darkened. Her cane striking the stone floor twice. Producing a dull thudding sound. What kind of talk is that? This boy is a newly successful candidate for the imperial exams this year. A man of great learning and character. I was thinking that since Zhao Zhao is no longer young, there's no need to let fertile water flow into another's field. Before she could finish, father waved his hand. His sleeve stirring a gust of wind on my face. What? Fertile water? A character like him deserves to be called fertile water? At best, he's slop. Get him out of here. Grandmother was trembling with rage. Pointing at father's nose to curse him. You unfilial son. Do you even have your mother in your eyes anymore? Father stuck out his neck. Looking exactly like a stubborn donkey. I have my mother in my eyes, but I cannot tolerate even a speck of sand in my vision. Whoever dares to use my daughter's future as a bargaining chip, I will fight them to the death. Seeing that the two were about to start brawling, the cousin suddenly gave a cold laugh. Cousin uncle, why get so angry? After all, since the cousin has a mother who is a rustic, showing her face in public, and doesn't follow the proper manners for men and women, her reputation precedes her, making it truly difficult to find a good family. I, being incompetent, am willing to enter into this marriage, which is already a favor granted out of respect for you, uncle. As soon as these words left his mouth, the courtyard fell into a deadly silence. The temperature in the air seemed to drop to freezing point all at once. I saw father's hands at his sides clench into fists abruptly, his knuckles cracking. The veins on his temples were throbbing wildly. This grandson had stepped on a landmine. Father could tolerate others calling him unfilial, or calling him a treacherous official, but he would absolutely never tolerate anyone saying even half a bad word about my mother. Father didn't even draw his sword, simply grabbing a brick from the nearby flower bed, ready to smash the cousin's head with it. I'll beat you to death, you foul-mouthed little beast. Seeing the chancellor was about to kill someone in the street, I reacted with lightning speed, grabbing father around the waist. Father, calm down. Is staining your hands with blood for a thing like him worth it? Don't you remember mom said seeing blood is bad luck? Father was huffing and puffing, his chest rising and falling violently, clearly pushed to the limit. The brick in his hand was pried away by me, and tossed aside. The big cousin was so scared his legs went soft, his fan dropped to the floor, and he retreated repeatedly, finally collapsing by the flower bed. Suemo was also terrified, stuttering and unable to speak. Right at this moment, my mother walked out of the backyard carrying a basin of dirty water from washing medicinal herbs. She looked at the tense atmosphere in the courtyard, then looked at the cousin sitting on the ground. My mother was expressionless, her wrist flicking, and with a splash, that basin full of muddy water and medicinal dregs, not a single drop left, drenched the cousin from head to toe. A pungent, sour smell mixed with the bitterness of herbs instantly filled the air. Sorry. My hand slipped, my mother said blandly, tossing the bronze basin onto the ground. The crisp clanging sound made my ears ring. Father's eyes lit up instantly, his previous anger vanishing without a trace. He trotted over to hug my mother's shoulders. Well done, wifey. Even the way your hand slipped was so graceful. Seeing this, I truly couldn't bear to look, so I turned away, looking at the cousin covered in black sludge and dry heaving, sneering. Did you hear that? My house doesn't welcome you. Will you roll away yourself, or should I help you? The cousin must have been driven insane. Wiping the mud and water from his face, pointing at my mother and swearing foully. You shameless Market Street hag. Before he could finish, I could no longer hold back. Does he really think the martial arts I practiced with my master for over 10 years are just for show? I pushed off with my feet, my shoe soles creating a piercing friction sound against the stone floor, and in a flash, I appeared directly in front of him. I didn't even draw my blade, as drawing my blade for trash like this would dirty it. I kicked out with my foot, hitting him square in the chest. With a muffled boom, the cousin flew out like a tattered sack. Right outside our estate is the moat. He soared over the low wall, tracing a graceful arc in the air, dropping straight into the river. A piercing shriek echoed across the sky, followed by a massive splash. A cold drop of river water flew over the wall and landed on my face. I brushed the dust off my clothes, feeling a sense of relief in my heart. Now, it's finally quiet. Grandmother let out a shriek, abandoning even her cane, scrambling to run out and save him. I lay on the wall, watching the drowned rat splashing in the river with schadenfreude. If you dare come to my house and nag again, I'll throw you out every single time, I shouted toward the river. Just then, a person walked over on the small path by the river. That man was wearing a black martial outfit, his frame tall and upright, his step steady. The cousin was splashing blindly in the water, and somehow or other, grabbed onto that man's pant leg. Help! Save me! The man in black stopped, glancing down at the cousin who was clinging to him for dear life. I thought he would save him, but he only frowned in disgust, giving a sharp jolt of his leg. I didn't clearly see how he moved his leg, but only heard a sharp crack. The cousin screamed once more, kicked straight into the center of the river. He must have swallowed a belly full of water. This guy is quite interesting. He's even more ruthless than I am. I raised an eyebrow. I carefully sized the person up. He seemed to sense my gaze. He tilted his head back slightly and looked up at me on the wall. The distance was quite far, but I still saw him clearly. His eyes were very bright, like cold stars, carrying a sharp chill honed on the battlefield. He saw me. His lips actually curved into a slight smirk. He seemed to be smiling. I froze for a moment, before I could even react. My father's distorted voice came from behind me. "Zhao Zhao, what are you looking at?" My father had appeared beside me without me noticing. He followed my line of sight. When he saw that figure by the river, and the young man's face, I felt my father's entire body go stiff. From beside me, an incredibly oppressive aura emanated. I turned my head, and saw my father staring deathly at that man. His eyes were wide like copper bells. His back molars were grinding audibly. I had never seen my father with such an expression. That wasn't the anger of a routine matter. It was a wariness as if facing a mortal enemy, even with a hint of panic. "Dad, do you know him?" I asked in a hushed voice. My father didn't answer me. He yanked me down from the wall. His rough movements nearly made me sprain my ankle. "Shut the gates. Release the dogs." Total silence for the entire estate. My father roared at the top of his lungs. His voice was cracking slightly, startling the birds in the trees into flight. "From today on, except for your mother, no one is allowed to set foot outside the gates. Especially you." I rubbed my aching wrist. I was completely bewildered. "Dad, what's gotten into you? Who on earth is that guy?" My father stared intensely at the tightly closed gates, as if a man-eating beast stood outside. He took a deep breath, and squeezed words through his teeth. "That little bastard from the Xiao family has returned to the capital with that old bastard father of his." I stood there stunned. The Xiao family, a flash of memory hit me. I remembered the unbearable memories from when I was young. The man 2 years younger than my father, who, for a kitchen knife from my mother, pointed. The grinning, little general who was clearly insane. 10 years have passed since then. Why has he returned like a lingering ghost? And, from what my father said, the young man outside is little General Zhao's son. Wait, Dad. I swallowed hard. I pointed toward the gate. Little General Xiao didn't even have a concubine back then, did he? Where did he get such a grown son? My father paced the courtyard in circles, like a hobbled donkey. After your mother rejected him back then, he fled to the frontier, and just picked up an orphan to raise as a son. That's the little beast outside. My father kicked the nearby stone block in a fury. He hissed through his teeth in pain. The elder one wanted my wife, and now the younger one is loitering at my door. The old thief clearly hasn't given up. He sent his son to scout the territory. I looked at my father's comical display of hopping on one leg. I was quite speechless. Dad, aren't you overthinking this? The guy might have just been passing by. Passing by, my foot. My father snapped at me. His eyes were bloodshot. Is this road the only path to the generals, I mean, my estate? A wild kid back from the frontier. What's he wandering around for? Didn't he just look at you? Didn't he just smile at you? I knew none of those Xiaos were any good. The elder one couldn't steal your mother, so the younger one wants to steal my little cabbage. My mouth twitched. So, in your eyes, old man, every pig in the world is after our garden, right? By now, my mother had finished washing her hands. She was leisurely wiping her fingertips with a handkerchief. She walked over and flicked my father on the forehead. That's enough. You're so old, yet you're still so dramatic. His return is a matter for the court. What does it have to do with our family? We'll face whatever comes. We'll deal with things as they happen. My father clutched his forehead, looking like a pouting, 200-pound child. He took the chance to lean against my mother, nuzzling against her. Wan, I'm afraid that Xiao guy hasn't given up. What if he starts sending you rare treasures again? I've already given you all my private savings. I have no money left to throw back at him. Listening to my father's theatrical display, I felt a layer of goosebumps break out. The great chancellor of the dynasty. Above all but below one. A ruthless character who could berate the court, until they foamed at the mouth. Regressed into a 3-year-old before my mother. Even if he sends them, I won't accept them. My mother patted my father's back, like soothing a large, loyal dog. All the gold in the world isn't as handsome as you. Satisfied? My father immediately stopped wailing. He looked up, his eyes sparkling. Really? Really? My mother sighed. I couldn't take it anymore. Compared to the Xiao family outside, this pair of parents flaunting their love shamelessly, was the true greatest threat to my sanity. I silently turned and walked toward the backyard. What should I eat tonight? I'm a bit hungry after all that. No matter what that Xiao boy is here for. If he dares interrupt my meal, I'll kick him into the moat to feed the turtles just the same. The wind blew through the herbs in the yard, carrying a sharp, faint scent. I touched the short blade hanging at my waist. The icy hilt against my palm made me feel very secure. In the stagnant pool of this capital city, it seems waves are about to rise again.